Economists, political leaders and entrepreneurs are all very optimistic about India's growth potential, predicting a GDP of up to 30 trillion in the next few decades. This confidence seems justified given our growing market size, demographic dividend and a shift of global economic epicenter towards the east. However, if India has to scale 10 times in its economic quest, then it needs more than just infrastructure and investments. It also needs exponential growth in the supply of its leaders. It's well known that India Inc. is desperately short of good leaders at virtually all levels. This acute shortage has many manifestations and indicators. Almost all organizations have several key leaders with more than one portfolio. CEOs and CHROs concede that not only are an alarming number of key positions understaffed, but also the suitability of the personnel occupying that position is under par. The executive search companies' cliches that good talent is in high demand hides the reality that actually good talent is very scarce. Strategic positions take several quarters to fill, and executive compensation has been rising sharply, largely because the same talent pool is getting cannibalized. This absence of a fully and competently staffed leadership echelon results in organizational friction, reduced velocity, lost opportunities, and of course, diminished growth. The quantities produced by feeder institutions like business schools and engineering colleges are inadequate, and barring a handful, their quality too is questionable. That corporates need to run extensive training programs for entry-level talent, especially in leadership, creative thinking, and real-world problem-solving skills, testifies to this deficiency. The profusion of mid-career executive education programs is another. If this is the situation at current levels of GDP, how does India Inc. envisage staffing its leadership cadres when demand increases tenfold? This problem cannot be solved by throwing money at it. Sure, a few cash-rich companies may be able to corner talent by increasing compensation, but that's a zero-sum game. New enticements like flexible hours, working from home, or a sense of purpose, etc., only addresses the battle for talent within the same pool with no supply increase. And unless the supply increases, companies will price themselves into a tough corner regardless of how cleverly they hire. The only scalable answer for India Inc. is for companies to transform themselves into self-learning and teaching organizations capable of producing adequate in-house leaders sustainably and cost-effectively. Leaders with different individual idiosyncrasies but a common set of values and purpose. Arguably, India's most diverse and large organization is the Indian Armed Forces. Our army alone numbers 1.5 million soldiers in regiments and battalions based in their states of origin. Apart from the usual demographic, linguistic and cultural differences, every battalion has its own subculture. Soldiers may look dissimilar, they may speak various languages, have different cultures, yet when they are commanded half turn right, each and every soldier knows that it means exactly 45 degrees. An ability to let multiple cultures flourish within a single operational vocabulary is vital to the success of any army, and it is achieved by addressing organizational building in a very different way. Firstly, training is right at the top in both the organization's position and social hierarchies. An army commander, a 3-star general, no less, heads the Army Training Command. That's a seat right at the high table. Being an instructor is highly coveted, and without exception, most of the force's senior commanders have had multiple stints as instructors. Evaluation processes are designed to check if commanders are just good leaders or can they also teach others. Secondly, all soldiers spend an overwhelming part of their time in training. It is time-consuming, expensive, and at times dangerous. And while the inevitable battle for budgets chip away, by and large, the training is of a very high caliber. Thirdly, structural and central units serve as the linchpins of this strategy. The military secretaries, or also known as the MS branch, manages the career progression of officers, nominating leaders for career courses at regular cadence that cannot, barring extreme emergencies, be overruled by their superiors. Lastly, these career courses are designed and executed centrally under the training command that is responsible for its quality and appropriateness. Not only does this assure continual leadership development, but also helps forge jointmanship, which furthers the bonds of trust. These central institutions are manned by leaders sent from fighting formations, thus ensuring that all leaders have experience of both the operational roles and organizational building before being elevated to strategic roles. Given the difference of stakes and mandate, corporates should not and cannot replicate all that the armed forces do. And it's not as if the forces themselves don't face challenges. However, there's definitely a need for businesses to consider a more firmly structural way of ensuring a leadership pipeline, not just for themselves, but also for tens of thousands of their vendors. Because the one lesson we ought to learn from COVID is that while hospital beds, PPE kits and respirators can be created within months, the leaders or doctors to helm them will still take years to produce.